Welcome to Reddit Realms, your nightly escape from the daily grind. Settle in by our digital fireplace, relax, and get lost in some of Reddit's wildest stories. New listeners, welcome. I share fresh stories daily that will make you laugh, sigh, or simply reflect. Before we begin, tell me in the comments where you're tuning in from. I'd love to connect with you all. Now, grab a warm drink, get comfy, and let's jump into today's stories. I am 31 now, taught our office lunch thief a lesson with a teal thumb and a stack of sticky notes. I work at a small marketing agency where the kombucha is always flowing and the snack wall looks like a Pinterest board. The only thing we don't share is lunch, which is a very important point because someone in our office apparently did not get that memo. For about 3 months, my food kept shrinking, not disappearing entirely, just losing one component, like a yogurt or the protein pack I put on top of my salad. I thought I was going bonkers. Maybe I forgot to bring it. Maybe I ate it and zoned out. I'm a copywriter. I enter the zone more than is healthy. But after the third time my Greek yogurt vanished and my spoon was lying on top of my lunch bag, like a sad little gravestone, I admitted to myself, we have a thief. We have a communal fridge next to the espresso machine, and the door opens roughly 1,000 times a day. There's a dry erase sign on it that says, "Please label your food," which is corporate for, "If you touch this, you'll meet HR." I always label. Big block letters, MIA. That's me. Apparently my name means free sample to someone. I started watching patterns. Missing items happened on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. The theft window was between 10:30 and 11:15 a.m., right before our weekly brainstorm, when everyone gets coffee and fidgets. We had 12 regulars at those meetings. I made a list. I didn't want to believe it was any of them. A few times I put my lunch on the back shelf, behind the giant jar of pickles that our account manager swears are brain fuel. Still, my yogurt would vanish. Once, the lid was left with exactly one spoonful in it, as if the thief had tried to make it look unstolen by leaving an insult. I vented to our office manager Val, who is the unofficial mayor of this building, and has a label maker holstered like a sheriff. She put up a sterner sign and sent a gentle Slack reminder about respecting colleagues' food. The next morning, my yogurt was gone, and the thief had eaten half of my strawberries. War. Enter my plan, good, old-fashioned, small-time petty. I went to the craft store after work and bought a mess-free stamp pad designed for kids. It's an odd product, nearly invisible on skin at first, but after a minute it oxidizes into a bright teal that looks like you've been petting a mermaid. The package said non-toxic, water-based, and washes off in a day or two. Perfect. The next day, I prepped my trap. I brought 2 individual cups of Greek yogurt. Before work, I very lightly swiped the rim of one yogurt under the foil lid with the stamp pad. Not saturated, not dripping, just a whisper. You wouldn't feel it, you wouldn't see it, but anyone who opened that one would press their thumb right into it when peeling back the seal. I labeled both cups MIA in big, obvious Sharpie, tucked one behind the pickle jar and one in front, set a reminder on my phone for 10:25, and pretended to write about oat milk for 45 minutes. 10:42 a.m., I stroll over to the fridge to get water and casually peek. The decoy's gone. My real yogurt is safe. The spoon is back on top of my bag like my intruder was trying to practice sanitation. I breathe in through my nose, out through my mouth. Showtime. We shuffle into the brainstorm. Our creative director, Evan, is one of those cheerful tornadoes who uses words like ideate with a straight face. He hands out sticky notes and says, "Today we're doing dot voting. Everybody write 5 quick concepts and star your favorite." We all grab markers, and that's when I see it. 2 seats down, Trevor, our resident spreadsheet guy. The one who tracks time down to the minute, has a thumb, a very teal thumb. He is left-handed. He peels sticky notes with his left. Every single note he peels down onto the whiteboard leaves a faint little smudge like a tide pool. My heart does that combination of vindication and oh no, this is a person, because I like Trevor, in a neutral co-worker way. He's quiet, he brings his own tea. He once fixed the paper jam without making it everybody else's problem. Please, I think, let it be a weird marker. Let it be anything else. Evan goes around the room asking us to read one idea each. When it's Trevor's turn, he raises his hand and starts, out-of-home placements near high schools because, and then he notices. He looks down at his thumb. He rubs it with his other hand. The teal kind of blooms. It's not glowing or anything dramatic. It's more like that moment you realize there's spinach in your teeth while on a first date. His face mirrors mine. Vindication and oh no. I say nothing. I am Switzerland. Inside, I am screeching. After the meeting, people drift to refill coffee. I wait a beat, then head for the fridge like normal. Trevor arrives exactly 15 seconds later, too fast, too coincidental, and hovers near the espresso machine with his mug, staring at the fridge like it might call the cops. He catches me looking. He smiles. It looks, and I do mean this gently, like guilt wearing a casual Friday mask. I open my lunch bag, and there's the decoy spot, empty. The spoon on top. I lift it up, look at it, set it back down, and close the bag again. Trevor coughs, the kind of cough people do when they want noise. He pretends to be fascinated by the oat milk carton. Hey, I say, have you seen the email about labeling food? He says too quickly, yep, label maker queen. Val is, very organized. I nod. She is. Silence. Espresso drips. Somewhere, the office husky. Yes, we have an office husky. Sneezes. He glances at his thumb, puts his hand in his pocket, and slinks back to his desk. I do not chase. Petty revenge isn't a car chase. It's a speed bump at exactly the right height. In the afternoon, the Slack random channel lights up. Val, Mayor, Sheriff Saint posts, "Team, gentle reminder to respect the fridge. We've had a few reports of missing items. Please only take food you brought. If you need a snack, we stock plenty." There's a meme with a raccoon guarding a sandwich. People laugh, react. Trevor reacts with a raccoon emoji. Bold choice. I keep my head down. My stamp pad goes back into my tote bag, and I go home and try not to feel like a cartoon villain. It's just yogurt, I tell myself. But it was my yogurt. It was the principle. And more than anything, it was the spoon placed back on my bag like a calling card. The next day, nothing goes missing. The next week, nothing goes missing. The teal thumb fades. I start to relax. Trevor avoids the fridge like it has tax season. But then, because we are human and patterns repeat, 2 Wednesdays later, my strawberries vanish again. The spoon is back in its now traditional place. This time, I don't set a trap. I don't tell Val. I send a single Slack DM to Trevor. Hey, did you by any chance grab my strawberries today? If so, no worries, just ask next time. He takes a full hour to respond. Sorry, I didn't realize they were yours, which is wild. Because they were in a container labeled MIA in letters the size of a billboard. I sit with that for a minute. I reply, got it. Please don't take my food. I prep it so I don't have to DoorDash. Thanks. He doesn't reply. He does, however, leave a small Ziploc bag on my desk the next morning with exactly 7 strawberries in it and a sticky note that says replacing. I bring them to the sink to wash them, and they taste like apology and guilt and possibly the inside of a fridge drawer that's seen things. I throw them away and decide I'm not going to be a hero. I just want it to stop. So I make one final move. I print a fridge inventory sheet. It's a simple table with columns. Date, item, owner, borrowed, Y, N, and initials of borrower. I stick it to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a croissant. I fill in my row for the day. A few co-workers chuckle and add theirs. It starts as a joke, but jokes cement norms. Suddenly, everything in that fridge has a line on that sheet, and the sheet is right there, public, and the row for MIA, Greek yogurt, 10 to 19, has a blank under borrowed with a sad little N. 2 more weeks go by, 0 thefts. Trevor starts bringing his own yogurt. He labels it Trevor, big block letters. He even adds a smiley face. I feel my shoulders drop from their permanent position around my ears. Then my boss schedules one of those mandatory culture meetings. Ah yes, the ritual of modern work. The slides say accountability, transparency, we look out for one another. I don't roll my eyes because I am a professional, but somewhere inside a tiny choir sings, you could say something. I don't. The teal did the talking. The spreadsheet did the rest. Petty Revenge Coda. About 3 days after the culture meeting, I swung by Trevor's desk to ask a spreadsheet thing. He is actually useful in a crisis, and I wasn't going to cut off a viable source of pivot table sorcery. He minimized a YouTube tab so fast I thought he sprained a finger, then looked up with a "hi" that tried too hard. "Hey," I said, "quick question on the UTM builder." "Yep," he said. "Cell C19 needs absolute references, here, like this." He showed me. He was normal. And then, unprompted, he said, "By the way, I'm sorry for the, fridge stuff." I blinked. "Thanks, I appreciate that. Please don't do it again." "I won't," he said. He rolled his chair back and pointed at his lunchbox, which was so aggressively labeled it looked like a kindergarten classroom. "Boundaries," he smiled in a way that said, "We are not friends, but we are adults." I smiled back the same way. We went back to work. The office husky sighed in his sleep. The espresso machine hissed. The jar of pickles judged us all from its glass tower. I packed a yogurt for the next day and slept like a person who knows her breakfast will be there in the morning. The end, or so I thought. Update. 2 weeks later. Apparently my little teal thumb karma had aftershocks. Val asked me to pop into a quick chat, our company's version of a hallway convo with chairs. I had that lurch in my stomach you get when your manager slacks, "Got a sec?" with no context. She closed the glass door, sat down, and said, "Nothing scary," which is exactly what someone says before they tell you something scary. "2 things," she said. "First, thank you for the fridge sheet. It is weirdly effective. I've never seen so many people initial anything voluntarily. Second, we had a talk with Trevor. My face did the poker thing. I do not have a poker face. My face plays Go Fish with its cards facing out. To be clear," she said quickly, "nobody's in trouble." But he admitted he'd been, borrowing food. He said he thought if it's not a full meal, it's fine. We clarified policies. She said policies the way you'd say you are not allowed to borrow a person's toothbrush because it's just bristles. Then she added, he also said he felt embarrassed. He figured everyone knew after the brainstorm. I pictured the teal thumb, the tidal pool smudges, the slow realization. I wondered if my little science experiment had crossed a line. "I didn't mean to..." "I know," Val said. "Honestly, it was restrained and kind of brilliant." She paused. "We did, however, make a new sign." She handed me a laminated sheet. "No borrowing food, even if it's small, even if it's just a yogurt. Ask first." It had a raccoon with a magnifying glass looking at a sandwich like a detective from a children's book. I laughed. "On brand," I said. "Very," she said. Then she surprised me. Trevor asked if he could apologize directly. No pressure. I thought about it. He'd already said sorry at his desk, but public wrongs have a way of lingering as gossip. I don't love the currency of whispers. "Sure," I said, but casual, no ceremony. So we did a walk-by apology. He caught me by the sink, said, "I'm sorry for taking your food." Simple, unadorned, direct. I said, "Thanks for saying that." And we both went back to our spreadsheets and taglines. The office husky, who has impeccable timing, padded over and stuck his head between us, like an HR rep in a fur coat. We both scratched his ears, neutralized. The kicker? A week later, Trevor sent a company-wide email. "Hey all, testing new bulk ordering for snacks. If folks have requests, add them here." He attached a Google sheet with columns for healthy, sweet, and yogurt flavors. The man created a public yogurt line item like a penitent monk. The fridge has been peaceful ever since. The croissant magnet guards the inventory list like a pastry paladin. And my lunch, untouched, whole, exactly as I packed it. I still carry the stamp pad in my tote like a talisman though. Not because I plan to use it again, just because it's nice to know I could. If you made it this far, initial the sheet, take what you brought, and remember, some problems really do solve themselves with a teal thumb and a well-timed meeting. Next up, when a neighbor kept reserving free street spots with traffic cones, OP taught him about city ordinances, using his own Ring camera footage. Stay tuned. I, 27M, got my parking spots back from my Cone Crusader neighbor by turning his own Ring camera into Exhibit A. I live in one of those old apartment complexes that pretends to be a community. You know the type. They throw a BBQ social once a year with overcooked hot dogs and an inflatable bounce house and call it neighborhood bonding. It's a decent place, mostly quiet except for one guy, my downstairs neighbor Alan. Alan, mid-40s, self-described small business owner, which in his case means he flips lawnmowers on Facebook Marketplace, has two main hobbies, complaining about parking and claiming ownership of any space within a 20-foot radius of his unit. Our building has 6 units and no assigned parking. It's first come, first serve, which has been fine for years. Most of us are polite. You park where you can, wave to your neighbor, move your car if someone's blocked in. Civilization. Alan, however, decided that 3 of the spaces, directly in front of his balcony, were his. His justification: I've lived here the longest. It started small, 1 orange cone on weekends, then 3 cones 7 days a week. Eventually, he upped his game with a reserved parking, tenant-only sign he clearly printed at Staples and zip-tied to the fence. For months, people just avoided it. Nobody wanted to deal with confrontation. But parking started getting scarce, and after circling the lot 1 too many times after work, I finally parked in one of his spots. Big mistake. The next morning, my windshield had a note written on a piece of yellow legal paper in blocky, all-caps handwriting. This spot is reserved. Do not park here again. You have been warned. It wasn't signed, but the return address might as well have said Alan's Ego, Apton 1B. Now, I'm not a confrontational person. I work remotely, I keep to myself, I pay rent on time. But there's something about being threatened over asphalt that flips a switch. So I took the note, walked downstairs and knocked on his door. He opened it wearing a Bluetooth headset and cargo shorts. Can I help you? Hey, I said, holding up the note. Just checking. Did you leave this on my car? He glanced at it, shrugged. You parked in my spot. There are no assigned spots, I said. Maybe not officially, he said, but everyone knows those are mine. I smiled in that way people do when they're actively trying not to curse. Cool, then everyone's wrong. I pay rent too. I'm gonna keep parking there. He said, I'll get management involved. Please do, I said. They love paperwork. And that was that, or so I thought. The next morning, I found that my car had been moved. Not towed, moved. It was now backed up against a hedge diagonally, 2 spots over. I could see tire tracks in the dirt. Someone had pushed it. My parking brake was off. I'd left it in neutral the night before. He had physically rolled my car out of his spot. I didn't have cameras. He did. 3 Ring cameras pointed at the parking lot. I went straight to management. They said, we'll look into it, which is corporate for, we'll lose this email in a folder called Problems. So I started documenting. Every day I took a photo of his cones, his signs, his notes. I logged timestamps. I even printed the tenant agreement that clearly says, parking is first come, first serve. Spaces may not be reserved by any tenant. Then one night, after returning from a late grocery run, I caught him mid-crime. He was standing out front in his robe, moving cones around like a general repositioning troops. I rolled my window down. Evening, Alan, I said. He froze like a raccoon caught in a spotlight. Just rearranging some things, he mumbled. I said, mind if I park in my community's public parking lot? He waved his flashlight dismissively. Lot's full. Try the street. There were 3 empty spots. At this point, it stopped being about convenience. It was about principle, and the fact that this man's sense of entitlement could power a small country. So I made a plan. Step 1, gather evidence. Step 2, make management actually care. Step 3, petty revenge with legal flavor. Step 1, evidence. I went to our community Facebook group and made a post. Quick question, anyone else been having issues with the cones in front of Building B? Trying to figure out if that's an official thing or just one person claiming territory. Within an hour, I had 7 comments. I've been parking across the street because of those cones. He yelled at my husband for using one once. I thought they were reserved for maintenance. One brave soul, our upstairs neighbor Jess, commented, it's Alan. I caught him yelling at a DoorDash driver for stopping there. Bingo. Step 2, make management care. I emailed the property manager with screenshots of the Facebook thread, photos of the cones, and a copy of the lease clause. No response. So I printed everything and hand-delivered it to the leasing office. The receptionist looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. "We'll forward this to the regional manager," she said. I smiled and said, "No worries, I've already done that," because I CC'd corporate. Suddenly, things started moving. The next week, they sent an email to all tenants. Friendly reminder, there are no reserved parking spaces in this community. Any attempts to block or restrict parking spaces will result in a lease violation. It was addressed to everyone, but we all knew who it was for. The cones vanished for about 3 days. Then, like the world's saddest phoenix, they returned. This time in a slightly different position, as if Alan thought diagonal cones were legally distinct from vertical ones. Step 3, petty revenge with legal flavor. I was over it, so I decided to let his own obsession with surveillance do the work. He bragged constantly about his Ring setup. It's motion activated, it saves to the cloud, caught a raccoon once. Perfect. I parked in his spot one night. The next morning, my windshield had a new note. "Move your car or I'll have it towed. Final warning." So I took a picture, walked right up to his door and said, "Hey Alan, mind if I see your Ring footage from last night? My car's been tampered with before and I think someone's been near it again." He stiffened. "Why?" "Because," I said, "management's asking for it." He blinked. "They are?" "They will be," I said, smiling. He shut the door without another word. That afternoon, I got a call from management asking to meet. Apparently, Alan had come in complaining that I was harassing him and parking in his property. So I brought my binder of evidence, yes, a literal binder, including the photos, timestamps, lease agreement, and printed Facebook thread. The manager barely had to look at it before sighing. "Yeah, we've been getting complaints about him for months." She pulled up the security report they'd just received from Alan. It included screenshots from his Ring camera, time-stamped videos showing him placing cones in public spaces, moving cars, and leaving notes. He'd submitted his own confession. I nearly laughed out loud. The manager said, "So, he sent this in as proof?" "Apparently," I said. "Well," she said, "thank you for your thoroughness. Consider this handled." The next morning, I walked outside to a glorious sight. No cones, no signs. Just open, legal parking spaces basking in the sun like newly freed land. Later that day, a notice appeared on Alan's door. Lease violation notice. Do not tamper with vehicles or obstruct shared spaces. A week later, his balcony was empty. His Ring cameras were gone. So was his reserved parking sign. He didn't renew his lease. I found out from Jess that he moved to another complex with assigned parking. Fitting. Update. 6 weeks later, I didn't expect this story to get weirder, but it did. A few days after Alan moved out, the property manager stopped me outside. She said, "You'll appreciate this. You know the new tenant in 1B? She found a box of cones in the closet." Apparently, when they cleaned out his unit, they found 3 more boxes of orange cones, 2 spare reserved signs, and a half-dozen printed warning notes ready to deploy. The man had inventory. She laughed and said, "He really took this seriously." I said he was basically running a private parking enforcement agency. She said, "Without the agency part." We joked about putting one of his cones in the office as a trophy. But my favorite part? The maintenance guys used the leftover cones to block off a pothole near the entrance. Every time I drive by, I see them and smile. Poetic justice. Now the lot's peaceful. Everyone parks like civilized adults again. Every so often, someone will jokingly say, "Careful, that's Alan's spot," and we'll all laugh. And whenever I see a new tenant circling the lot nervously, I just point to the open space in front of my building and say, "Go ahead, no cones, no rules, just freedom." Because some people leave behind legacies. Alan left behind traffic cones. Next up, when a boss tried to cancel everyone's lunch breaks to boost productivity, one intern found a legal loophole that forced the entire office to take mandatory paid breaks with free pizza. Stay tuned. I-22F was the unpaid intern who made our no lunch break boss pay for everyone's pizza. Every single day for a week. When I got my first office internship, I thought I'd be learning the ropes of marketing. You know, strategy meetings, creative brainstorming, free coffee, that whole "we're basically Mad Men but with HR training" vibe. Instead, I learned how to unjam a printer, refill the fridge with La Croix, and take orders from a man named Brad, who thought the word intern meant assistant with no rights. Brad, 35mm, was our department head, balding in a way that suggested stress, not genetics. Wore a smartwatch and said things like, "Teamwork makes the dream work." I could tolerate the cliches. What broke me was the great lunch ban. Here's what happened. Our company had been falling behind on deadlines, mostly because upper management kept promising clients lightning-fast turnarounds on massive campaigns. Brad's solution? We're going to boost productivity by optimizing time management. Translation: fewer breaks. He started small. First, he cut our morning 15-minute coffee break, calling it unnecessary downtime. Then he began scheduling back-to-back meetings right through lunch. We thought it was temporary, until the email came. Subject: Streamlined Work Hours Initiative Team. To ensure we hit our upcoming project goals, we're moving to a streamlined schedule. Lunch breaks will be shortened to 15 minutes effective immediately. Please plan accordingly and eat at your desk if needed. Let's push through this quarter like the champions we are. Brad. The man signed off an unpaid labor decree like he was sending troops into battle. Everyone was furious, but nobody wanted to risk their jobs. I, however, was technically an intern, which meant I had nothing to lose and everything to gain from being a quiet little gremlin. So I started digging. I went down an internet rabbit hole about labor laws, half fueled by rage and half by curiosity. Turns out, in my state, if an employee works more than 5 consecutive hours, the employer must provide a 30-minute uninterrupted meal break, or compensate them for that time as paid work. I double-checked with my friend who studied HR, bless you Jenna, and she confirmed it. If he's scheduling meetings through lunch and people are still working, that's paid time. He's breaking the law. Cue my favorite kind of revenge, legal and delicious. The next day, I joined the 11:30 meeting with a bag of chips and a Diet Coke. Brad gave me the stink eye. Can you put that away?" he said. "We're starting." I looked right at him and said, "Sorry, just eating during my state-mandated lunch break." He blinked. "What?" "Oh, it's a labor law thing," I said cheerfully. "If we're required to work through lunch, it counts as paid time." I figured I'd multitask. The room went quiet. A few co-workers looked at me like I'd just kicked open the office door with theme music playing. Brad's face did a slow gradient from pink to red. "We're not breaking labor laws." "Okay," I said, smiling. "Then we can all take 30 minutes off, right?" He looked like he wanted to delete me from the payroll. "We'll revisit this later." Later came fast. That afternoon, HR sent out an all-staff reminder that employees were encouraged to manage their own lunch times, which meant Brad couldn't officially enforce his no-lunch policy anymore. But he also couldn't admit defeat, so he got sneaky. The next day, he scheduled a lunch and learn at noon. Mandatory attendance. I replied all to the invite. "Hey Brad, just to clarify, are we being paid for this meeting since it falls during the legally required meal break?" Within 5 minutes, the HR manager chimed in. "If this is during lunch, attendance should be optional or compensated." He cancelled it within 10. Victory number 1. You'd think that would be the end of it. Nope. Brad doubled down. He started holding team syncs at 12:05 p.m., conveniently 5 minutes after everyone sat down to eat, and would linger near desks making comments like, "Still on lunch? It's 12:37. People were miserable, so I decided to make him own it. Literally. I printed the labor law page from the state's official website and taped it inside the break room cabinet door, the one above the coffee machine that everyone opens daily. Bright yellow highlighter over the key sentence: "Failure to provide a 30-minute meal period constitutes paid time at the employee's regular rate." Then, because I'm petty and dramatic, I added a sticky note underneath. "Brad's paying for lunch this week, apparently." People laughed. HR didn't. 2 days later, I got an email from HR asking if I'd be willing to clarify my understanding of lunch policies. I walked in with printouts, timestamps, and screenshots of the original streamlined work hours email. The HR manager sighed when she saw the header. "We told him this was a bad idea. So it's illegal?" I asked innocently. "Technically, yes," she said. "If anyone worked through lunch, we owe them back pay." I pretended to look concerned. "Oh no, that sounds like a lot of paperwork." "It is," she said, already writing notes. "Thank you for bringing this to our attention." A week later, HR announced a lunch appreciation initiative. Translation: we all got free catered lunch every day for a week to encourage proper meal breaks, paid by Brad's department budget. He looked like a man chewing glass as we all happily stuffed our faces with pizza, tacos and sandwiches, on the clock. I sat at my desk munching on a slice and said loudly, "Hey Brad, just letting you know I'm logging this as work time, since we're technically eating and emailing." He didn't respond, just stared at his salad like it had betrayed him. The story could have ended there, but my co-workers decided to make it a tradition. Every Friday, someone would say, "Lunch on Brad," and we'd all chip in for takeout, half as a joke, half as a reminder that we have rights. HR didn't stop us. Brad couldn't, legally or socially. And honestly, the office morale skyrocketed. People started talking again, laughing again, actually taking breaks. Productivity even improved. Corporate ended up writing a memo about the positive impact of structured meal times. Brad had to forward it to everyone. I printed it and taped it next to my desk as a trophy. Update. 3 months later, my internship ended, and they offered me a full-time position. The HR manager said, "We could use someone who knows how to read policies." Brad wasn't in the meeting when she said it. He was on stress leave. I accepted. On my first official day as a paid employee, I brought in a box of pizzas for the team. I slapped a post-it on one of the boxes that said, "For lunch, legally." Everyone laughed. Now, every new intern hears the legend of the lunch law hero. It's embarrassing, but also kind of great. Because here's the thing, sometimes petty revenge doesn't just make you feel better. It makes the whole office a little more human. And Brad? He's still here, calmer, quieter, and now religiously blocks off his own lunch break on the shared calendar. Progress. Next up, when a nosy landlord tried to enter a tenant's apartment for inspections without notice, she turned the tables and had him evicted using his own text messages. Stay tuned.